Hi, everyone. Welcome to another show, Conscious Living Radio, which of course is Wednesdays. And no, today's not Wednesday. Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m., 100.5 FM in Vancouver. The show is, we're doing Facebook, right? Because the station's still on lockdown. So if you're watching this on Facebook, welcome. And if you're listening on Wednesday night, which hasn't happened yet, but maybe we could get into a conversation how it has. I don't
It's
know
like
about
time
that.
travel,
A little,
Tasha.
a little time travel chat. Wednesdays, 6 to 7, join us there. Or of course on consciousliving.radio.org, where it's available all the time after the fact as a podcast. So I'm Tasha Sims.
And I'm Marc Caron.
And our guest today goes by the name Zalah. He calls himself a master consciousness coach. He walked away from a successful career in corporate finance, began a 7-year journey inward, studying with a spiritual master, and subsequently leading to the creation of the Center for Transformation in Calgary that he founded 20 years ago. He's an author, public speaker, head facilitator at the center, where he's committed to helping students make sense of their life experiences and empowering them to live their best lives, bring their unique gifts into the world, and as well seems to be training upcoming teachers. His latest book, The Big Three, 3 Ways Your Divine is Trying to Get Your Attention and How to Get Back into the Flow. That is our focus today as we explore the principles that his work is based on and learn more about accessing the divine. So before we dive into how the divine is trying to get our attention, which I already know personally the answer to since I broke my shoulder 3 weeks ago. Tasha, you're not listening. Boom. Down you go. Perhaps you can share your story and how you were called to create the center and focus on helping others transform. I mean, that's a big leap. Corporate world, the dude, I'm assuming you were successful. So it would mean you were in that flow of energy all the way to where you are now. If you can give us a Cole's notes, that would be great.
Well, first off, I want to say namaste to you and to Marc. And I'm thankful, Tasha, for you being so grateful and you providing me with this opportunity. First off, I'm new to this electronic and social media as I am just coming out of the closet now after 20 years of teaching the wisdom of the ages. So I thank you for what you do for the world with your program, because after all, we're all walking each other home. I hope you agree.
I
And
do.
we all are to the other half of the sky. And in fact, it's only been in the last 6 to 8 months that I've agreed to come out of my humbleness and even put my picture on the website at the CFT. So I'm very humbled to be on your program today here. And so I'd like to say that today I'm going to speak from my point of ignorance is what I plan on stating. I've been the best kept secret in North America teaching this wisdom of the ages and not coming out public like I am today. But let me tell you a little about me. I was a shareholder in Canada's largest investment firm. I featured this on my TEDx talk, which you can find on YouTube. And I was selling my soul for the corporate goal. I mean, I lived a life similar to, not quite, but I lived a life of success similar to The Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but, I went to excess in just about everything that I did. And so eventually I found out that that just wasn't me. I didn't matter how much money there was on the plate. You know what? Wasn't happy because there was something just eating me inside alive. And so I've never been a religious guy. Tasha, never. And I ended up becoming very spiritual. I went within and I went so far within that I found that for me, I was always a person of excess. No matter what I did to excess. A rather dubious distinction and illusion, by the way. But it did serve its purpose because I found that the path of excess led me to the palace of wisdom. So I searched for, called out to the universe, found a real master, and I never tell anybody where or what I studied. I never tell anybody where. And
I
the
was
reason
going to ask.
everybody wants to know, especially when they find out how much volume there is here and connection. And the reason is that all true teachers, they have an unspoken rule. Because right now, millions of teachers are required on a plateau. And the public, being what it is, always wants to say to the teacher, hey, who trained you? And then the public would bypass and go all the way up the chain to the top guy on the planet here. And so as a result, we don't speak of that. What we do speak of is, how about if I educate you? And I mean, some come to drink at the fountain of knowledge, others come to gargle, and others come to swim in the sea of
So,
the observer.
so you're going to have to, sorry to be, I am a bit of a, like I like to dig right in there. You're going to have to go over that one more time for me, because does it matter who one goes to? This whole concept of teacher and student, I wrestle with because of my own history. I wrestle with it. I believe we are sovereign. I believe there are times that teachings are always being offered. They're always available, and they're available with you and you and the divine. And
Yes.
so I don't quite get that choice. Like, why would it be necessary? Who cares if they go to the top? What does it matter if they go to, you tell us who you studied with, and someone decides, oh, I'm going to go to India or wherever it was you went. Maybe it wasn't India.
Very good question.
Yeah.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Here's my rationale, and most of our rationale, and that is not that I compare myself on the same footing, but could you imagine going to Jesus and saying, who taught you? And then people kind of smile, and I say, look, I'll teach you, and let me teach you. And in the event that you can pass all of the initiations that I put you through by your agreement, then I'll tell you where it is that I've been taught. Until then, this is what's been presented. You'll select me as your teacher or not. And whatever you do, understand this, that this isn't about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's not about following the teacher. It's about following your heart. And if in fact we've been led to each other, chances are high that we are a fit. And if we're not, that's okay. I release you, because I say follow your heart. This isn't about drinking the Kool-Aid. It's about giving each of us the opportunity to walk each other home.
So it's not really about the person who's the teacher, but the principles the teacher holds. And I think whether it's Jesus or Buddha, to
Yes.
say, hey, what are you basing your teachings on? How did that awareness come to you? I don't think those are negative questions or questions to be
Oh,
avoided.
they're beautiful
And
questions.
and I believe Jesus would say, and Buddha might say, it was within, in this solitude, sitting under the
Perfect.
Bodhi tree or whatever it was, but there would be a sharing, as opposed to it being some sort of a you figure it out, or I'm going to test you, or again, this whole master student dynamic. So I just want to get clear that we're not, that you, I want to understand where you're coming from on that one point.
Absolutely. Number one, you can call me anything you want. And I tell people, I say, look, if you're looking for a guru, I'm not your guy. After all, the actual word guru means, gee, you are you, as and above you. And Jesus said, the truth will set you free. This is about truth. And so Jesus didn't say religion will in terms of Catholicism or whatever, Protestantism or Lutheran. No, he said the truth will set you free. So this is about the wisdom of the ages, which is truth, before it became personalized into religion. And so as a result, I say, don't put me on any kind of pedestal. I'm here to be of service. If I can be of service to you, great. And I have a few stanchions that I've agreed that I would teach by. And this is one of my stanchions. I'll give you my best. I'll give you as much as you can possibly handle. But even then, I can't give you too much, because the truth has a caveat with it. It's called the burden of truth. In law, you have the burden of proof. If I sue you, Tasha, I must prove to a court of law that you've done me harm. In the truth teachings, and by the way, they're not my teachings. I'm just the concierge. I'm just the concierge, and just the door opener for this, in all humility. But as I teach you something, not everybody is ready for the levels of truth that can be obtained, because there's a burden of truth that comes with it. And that is, if you get this level of truth, you're expected by your divine to live that level of truth to the best that you can. Or you can just keep recycling it until you do get it. And that's fine too. That's perfect. Does that help you?
No, but I'm going to move on, because otherwise we'll spend our whole time digging in here, and
We
it
can,
doesn't really answer what I'm asking, but that's okay. Let's move on to the teachings. Um, what are they based on? Because when you say truth, isn't truth subjective?
Depends on what seal you're coming from, whether or not it's a subjective or not. There's the human body has 7 energy centers. Actually, I call them seals. The Bible refers to the mighty seventh seal. It doesn't refer to the mighty seventh chakra. A chakra, Tasha, is an open seal. And what happens is that we live in the bottom 3 seals
Mhm.
of this 7-story spiritual machine. And as you open up these seals, they open up a different part of the brain. The first 3 seals, as you open them up, I think seals should be spelled SEE-ALLS. I think they should be called seals.
Hmm.
And so as you open this up, you look at life differently. As you open up the first seal, especially in a woman, there's a string, a legendary string across there called a hymen. And, and as that gets perforated, that seal then becomes a chakra, and it has its own consciousness properties that come with it as it's opened right there in the first. It perpetuates the opening of the second seal, which also, and I can go over these in great detail, which I do in the course and beyond, it has different characteristics, one of which is in the second one, responsibility, irresponsibility, pain, suffering. The second one is about motherhood. She's responsible for that child is what happens. And so the issues concerning life and its evolution concern the properties of that particular seal. Third seal has to do with power, victim-tyrant dynamics, rescuer dynamics, and the like. And power is a big one that is on this planet right now. And it's a big block from getting to the fourth seal, which is about love, about beingness. The third one about power, what I promote heavily is not something that I created, but it's been used by teachers throughout time. And that is when the great transformation of the individual comes, when the love of power is exceeded by the power of love, then the
Hmm.
transformation occurs. Then the transformation occurs because everybody rises to their ceiling of power in personal relationships, in government, at all levels, in corporations. Everyone rises to their level of failure. You rise to your level of failure and you've got to mature through that.
So with the seals or the chakras, to you, does this ring true that it's a system of information attributing these qualities to each seal um, supports a kind of investigation that helps you hone in on what you might be wrestling with, what the current curriculum is, or whatever language you want to use. Does that, do you relate to that?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
then what
It,
do we do
it's,
when
it's,
your
it's
system is different than my system? So I heard you say the first one was sexual. To me, it's belonging. Second one is sexual. And I know you know this, that there are different systems of interpretation for the chakras. So what do we do with that? Do we not, isn't that where dogma comes from when people are certain that the first one means this and the second one means this and, like that?
well, the fact is that they're all in place. And it's a unique thing about truth because when you're exposed to the highest level of truth, it actually needs very little explanation. But let me just say this, that as you own your life issues in first seal, second seal, third seal, as you own those life issues, do you absolutely get to visit the fourth and perforate the fourth? But there's actually a granite slab for most between the third and the fourth because they
Mhm.
never get past the
Right,
dualistic
right,
issues
right,
of the first 3
right.
centers. They just don't
Yeah,
get past that. They,
yeah,
they spend lifetimes, thousands of
yeah,
lifetimes reacting, and then they have to come back and
yeah.
make good on that and even it because very few people understand that you can own it, but only on this half of the sky.
No,
That's
I
why we're
agree.
here.
I so agree with what you're saying there. And to me, it's cultivating that love energy, pure love energy as a response to whatever you discover in the first, second, third, which feels very human and very, when we're triggered, we're not triggered in our heart. We're not triggered in love. We're triggered in our past and everything else that's been programmed and wired in there. So to me, the biggest shift is realizing, as you say, instead of having a granite wall between them, responding to them from that higher pure frequency.
No question. You're bang on the money, because love actually resists nothing, yet conquers all. Master's motto: how did you become a master? I never minded what happened to me,
Yeah,
or what's happening to me right now. I
right,
never minded. It's all about life
right,
happens for you, not to you.
right, right. And knowing that concept has become my I think it changed. It was a deal changer 15 years ago where I went, okay, this has to be unconditional. For me, for it to be a capital T truth, it can't be conditional. It fits here. It doesn't fit here. It has to be like an absolute. And part of that to me feels like choice. I choose that. I know it resonates true. I am choosing it. And therefore my curriculum becomes any place I'm out of alignment with that knowing. This is happening for me. So then the question when something awful is going on isn't why is this happening to me? It's what is this for? What is the purpose of this? And that changes everything. Even if you're feeling awful or something tragic is occurring, you're in an openness going, there is information coming. I just don't know what it is. Let me get comfortable. Let me get into this. So that statement, this is happening for me, not to me, is that one of the principles, the core principles of the work you do and how you facilitate your group work?
Absolutely. And I mean, what you just stated rolls off the tongue easy, Tasha. Living it is something else.
It's true.
It is very, very true. And I mean, the truth is that love resists nothing but conquers all. It's going to conquer each one of us. We came from nothing, spirit. We're going to return to nothing. We're off the chain while we're here. And back on the other half of the sky, you get to see where you lied, cheated, stolen, did whatever while you're off the chain. That's not an option on the other half of the sky. How well did you do on this half of the sky here? Did you forget yourself, or did you land up getting lost like I did, very, very lost, and then realizing you were disconnected terribly? And that's the first sin, is that we all got disconnected in favor of the illusion. But we needed the experience. And then to be able to realize you got disconnected and be able to connect again with all its host of values and understandings is what most people seek. The only problem is everybody is pretty much head down, bum up, trying to make a living. And with all of its dynamics in the world of polarity that causes severe confusion. And
You
I say,
use you
I
use
say
the word sin. What if there is no sin?
there is a sin, in fact, if in fact the original sin, and I believe in this, was separation. But you needed to find out who you are by who you're not. So that's a general term. And I believe that there is
It,
no sin. I
yeah,
even
it's a term
mentioned it,
that has caused much pain to many people.
right.
The
But
word.
if it probably has a wider audience understanding, though, because I don't know the word that would say, what do you call the original disconnect? I haven't found a
A
substantive word.
mistaken belief that I'm separate. I
It,
forgot.
it was a
And
mistake. Go ahead.
so my question is that not part of the human condition and part of our journey here in this body, in this time? You know, and I'm glad
Yes.
that you noticed you picked up on that, Tasha, the word sin, because I kind of picked up on that too and kind of hang on, is it a sin if that's kind of what we all do? It seems that it's a very common uh, practice in pretty much every human story that there's
Forgetting. Yeah,
that
forgetting is
conflict
the
of forgetting where we
yeah.
do stupid shit and you know and we either learn from it or we don't. We blame ourselves, have shame, we go down that road, or at some point we learn to let that go and be in the present moment and learn from it and move forward and
Yes.
not do it again, right?
You have the spirit of it. I'm
And
totally aligned with you. But could it be that that was the first lesson? And maybe lesson is LESS space SIN instead of SON. Maybe that was the first lesson. And in that context, perhaps we can take it and move it, that we all find out who we are by who we're not. I had to do that. I'm sure that you did. Tasha, I'm sure that you did. And in doing that, we got a whole bunch of lessons. But the idea here is when you find your center is emotions are of the bottom three seals, passions of the fourth. So the idea about your past that is of record in these bottom three seals, chakras, the fact is that we're all here to get past the past, get the lesson, lose the emotion, get the lesson, lose the emotion, and move on. Now, if we can do that, life starts to align for us, and I believe starts to make sense for us.
Okay, and this is a university training, and so I'm going to enter this hierarchy of discussion of kindergarten to PhD, because those first three chakras, the work that needs to occur to clear them out and no longer identify as the feeling, I would say. I don't think you're going to stop having if you are going to stop having feelings in your world of university, then I'll pass. But if you're going to not identify as the feeling, allow it to flow through you, let it be information, that's a wide open life to me.
Bingo.
And so,
I agree.
yeah,
I
so
agree.
let's go through it a little bit specifically. So we're not always talking in sort of bigger principles. I love it getting personal. If the first three chakras are the part, how do you clear them? How do you open them? How do you work with, I don't know if you use the word mistaken beliefs, but to me, the human experience from childhood is jam-packed with so many perceptions that are faulty. How do you clear the lens in your system?
Goodness. The belief systems, the BS is morphing all the time. It is morphing. Beliefs are conjectural. Knowing is absolute. You don't believe what your mother looks like. You know what she looks like. And we're all morphing in our belief systems through these bottom three here. We all are. What you used to believe as a child, quite often it gets altered through traumatic experiences and through repetition. If you want to expedite through these bottom three, you have to agree that everything comes from love and returns to love. And we learned of separation in duality. We did while we're here. But we're going to return to love. We're going to return to spirit. So if in fact you can get above the fact that time heals all, time does not heal all. Love heals all. Reincarnation proves that time doesn't heal all. You can go to the other half of the sky, still come back, and still have to learn what you have to learn about the bottom three. These bottom three are the ones that occupy the 10% subject to discussion of the brain that we typically, notoriously occupy. And yet the majority of it by far outside the cranium is left there open, waiting for us. And how many people actually say, Tasha, I think there's more of me outside the box than inside the box. I'd like to discover that.
What box?
Okay, the box of the 10% of the brain that we do use, if I could use that. Okay. That part is filled with experiences of the bottom three chakras.
Right.
Loaded. As a child, if I could, just let me finish this, Marc. As a child, that box, if we can imagine that box, is filled with love. As we experience life in duality, it gets filled chock full of polarized experiences to the point that it's full. And then what happens is an incident happens for somebody, splashdown, little incident at the top, he's full. That's where road rage comes from. Suddenly somebody goes off the deep end and what? You only did this much, but you shot at the person. And this is what you thought it was worthy of. So most people never get outside the box.
So I guess my language would be different. Those are the mistaken beliefs that I believe are part of the wiring. And they, like you say, they happen in a split second. The ability to tolerate the trigger, which would include knowing what you're thinking about it, the meaning you're making, and knowing what you're feeling in the present moment. So that person who pulls out the gun on the freeway doesn't have time to do that. Bam. You just did, like, it's melded together. And that, to me, is lowly differentiated. You're at the bottom of the scale. But the higher up feeling and thought goes, if you're staying centered and plugged into the divine, your ability to tolerate both those two human conditions expands. So
Yeah.
you then may feel like going, oh, bam, but you breathe instead. You rewire to make healthy choices where you can notice the feeling. It's in your body. Notice the meaning you're making, because I would say almost all miscommunication is those two things,
Yeah.
acting on the feeling but to me, it's not an absence of feeling. I meet spiritual people. Oh my God, yawn. Like, no, thanks. I don't want to. I'm here. I don't want to leave the human condition. I want to bring spirit to the human condition so the world can change. I don't think it's about zenning out away from our emotional information.
Okay. I hear you. And I
Mm.
want you to know that on those traumatic experiences that you refer to, I know, and you probably know, that the time to own something is when you're in the face of it. It's where you do take the breath. It's where
Yeah.
you do choose peace, that you can dissolve probably better, the asterisk of the trauma that occurs within your being. Because there's a lot of people with a lot of these asterisks that are just very explosive,
Yeah.
very traumatic. And I believe that what's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget until our consciousness is ready to
Right.
dissolve that spot. And this takes time. This takes time, and this takes non-reaction when you're in the face of it. It also means that as you expand yourself through silence and stillness, and in my first two books, I write about the benefits of what I call the S treatment. And that is, if you want to catapult your evolution, when you need to pause from the dualistic illusion, try sitting still, silently at sunrise and sunset for an extended period of time. For me, I sat in the trees for a long, long time. I mean, I'm not talking months. I'm talking a long time. And a funny thing happens when you're in that kind of peace. The obvious, unobvious becomes really obvious. But who's got time to do that these days? So the teachers are coming out in the population to say, all right, we'll come to you. But this means that you've got to learn how to calm down. And one of the things I teach is we're going to teach how to think of one thing, and then I'm going to teach how to think of nothing without falling asleep. And most who start say that's impossible. And I say, well, that's because you're so polluted. But let me just say this, that it is possible. And that's where your greatness is when you think of nothing. Just for a short while. And then you'll find that this can open up.
Mm. Let's move on to how the divine is trying to get your attention. I'm curious.
Okay. Well, COVID-19 is a real, I think it's a blessing because, and for many, many reasons, honestly. You know, whether you believe in the legitimacy of COVID-19 or not, and there's a lot of controversy, there's no question as to its negative impact on the economies of individuals, families, countries. It's no doubt. So one of the big three is financial. Another is relationships. It's taxing many personal relationships right through divorce. All right. And both of those two can compound in the degradation of human health in various degrees, from depression, fear, guilt, shame, anxiety, right through worries of prayer for what you don't want, right through to death. All right. And death will wake you up. When you're leaving, that wakes you up. It also wakes up the people that were left behind. So these three are the big three. And what they're meant to do is they're meant to drive you out into the sky, look up at the sky and say, my God, what's going on here? You know, financial's is down like to the point of, I'm going to go past zero. Relationships, very taxing right now. Health, I'm worried sick about all these other two dynamics, and now it's showing up in my body. All these three, I believe, are designed to drive you up to the center and just say, all right, why? What? I mean, there's a reason why every day ends in a why, I believe. And we're supposed to be asking why more often why did this occur? And I believe that all of life is purposeful. And I really do believe that life happens for you, not to you. But it's my opinion that COVID-19 is the catalyst for a great recalibration and transformation for society in general. And at this moment, I believe that this recalibration may have just started because now there's different variants of this virus. The byproduct of all of these big three is that Mother Nature has an opportunity to inhale. I really believe that she does. And integrity and the health of the planet, I believe, are tied into each other. And that's what I gave a TEDx talk on, and people can see that on YouTube, because I believe that integrity is about putting spirit first, ultimate. I mean, I believe that integrity is what you do when no one's looking in the illusion, but a higher order of integrity is putting spirit first. And I believe that we're all here to understand that if we lose this planet, we have no place to stand on, first off. But, the environment and the ecology have always been on this teeter-totter, Tasha, throughout time. Newsflash to the politicians. The environment has always won. If you take a look at the previous 5 root races, the ecology has always won.
So how would you guide people to be in alignment with the reset as opposed to struggling with it? Because so many people are struggling.
It's a matter of you understanding that everything is purposeful. Life is happening for you. And if you can just stop, look up at the sky, go out in nature, sit in a school field and just look up at the sky and have a talk. I do this every morning at 4:30 in the morning here in Calgary, 2 minutes from my door to that river. I live on a 500,000 acre border provincial park. So I go down at 4:30 and I have what I call my hour of power. And I sit there and I just talk to God and I meditate. And I mean, most people don't realize that there's 3 parts of meditation, but that's another perhaps talk. But we are dangerously close here with, 68% of the insects gone since 1970. They've taken scientific toll. About the same of animals that have left the planet, about close to 70%. Oceans are about a quarter of their population, all from 1970. So, you combine that with, as I hold retreats, I put up this poster, Tasha, and it's by National Geographic. And I say to students, look at this. Look, this is not National Enquirer. This is National Geographic. And if anybody should know anything about the planet, it should be National Geographic. And they've charted the last 6 ice ages. And what's interesting is that when the CO2 levels have got to 250, it's though the Earth in its intelligence says, freeze, and goes into an ice age. We're at 450 parts per million now. Not 250, but 450. So, it was the Buddha that said, the problem with humanity is every member always thinks they have more time.
So you would agree we're in a state of emergency or emerging sea, would you?
Yeah, we are. And I'll say this also, that throughout time in the previous 5 root races, the one saving grace, and I hope these words echo through the canyons of your soul, that nature preserves that which is in tune with it. It wouldn't matter to the Aboriginals or the South American tribes if the stock market went to zero. Wouldn't matter if the currency collapsed. Wouldn't matter if there's pandemonium in the cities. They're of the earth. There's a different spin on the energy body around the human when you're in integrity and when you put spirit first. And this is what I teach.
And how are you going to teach that to corporations? How are you going to teach that to people who are so wired, so programmed? I mean, look at the inequality, financial, it's like we're in this world of power, control, freedom. I mean, it's such a topic of conversation, thankfully, at this time. But how would you advocate for people who are in that system, for them to begin this wake-up call to put spirit first? That's a long shot.
Well, No, not really. It just has to be, you have to listen to yourself. For me, I was in that industry very, very well.
Yeah.
And I made it to the top as a shareholder, as far as I was concerned, 7 figures plus income. A lot of people can't do that these days. And I walked away and said, no more. That's it. And so anybody that is going through the depreciation of financial relationships, maybe even health, heads up, heads up, find a teacher. I believe that smart people learn from their mistakes. I believe that geniuses learn from others' mistakes and others' experiences. I had to go find somebody that was much greater than I was. And how do I do this? How do I get my sanity back? Because I feel like I'm just so fragmented all over the place. I need a defrag process. And so this process is what we teach. And it all comes through, first off, believing in the philosophy and then turning it into experience, which then turns it into wisdom. So I teach philosophy and I say, now listen, this is not truth to you. This is truth to me. When you have the experience, if I say, try this and see what the
Mm-hmm.
experience is, then if you do it a few times, then you've got it. You've turned it into wisdom. You took the philosophy of how to do the bike. You had the experience of it enough. Now you got the experience, which is wisdom. And that's the way the philosophy is of the wisdom of the ages. And by the way, I didn't create the wisdom of the ages. I just live it to the best of my ability. I put an objection in all my books from now on saying, I don't think that there should be any of true teachers' copyright on books because of the fact that it wasn't mine to begin with. And I challenged the whole world. Who's got the
How do you
copyright?
copyright
Right,
wisdom? Yeah.
the Vedas, the Koran, the Bible.
Yeah.
Nobody should own the copyright on truth. This is insane for high-profile authors. But I said, anybody can copy. Here, I'm putting a copyright on it just because my lawyer says if I don't, then I could possibly be sued because somebody else is going to claim this edition as their truth and then prevent me from teaching it and saying it. So it's a bit of a catch-22 there. But we've got ourselves in a few of those catch-22s. That's why the new kids coming in at this time have all the answers for humanity. Do you know why that they have the answers? And let me tell you, it's because Einstein, it's based on a quantum physics principle. He said, you cannot solve the problem with the same mind that created it. And we got a whole bunch of minds that have bought into this dimension of problems, when in fact, it's going to take somebody fresh, new, and say, okay, here's what we got to do to convert CO2, carbon monoxide. Here's what we got to do to repopulate. Here's what we got to do to salvage the oceans. And we can't be caught on the problem. So the new kids come in, they're fresh. So I believe we should cherish these children because the children have to be greater than the parents, Tasha. Otherwise, the world does not progress.
And there's something to be said for mentoring. I think it depends what field you're talking about. Certainly technologically and how to solve those kinds of problems, I 100% agree. But I also see some old wisdoms in terms of communication, in terms of relationship. The area that for me, I feel I have something to offer that is
You do.
devalued in today's world because it's not fitting into whether it's the technological hip TikTok, Instagram marketing, all that branding, all of it, which, that's a whole other conversation. But I think it's both. I think it's once we stop pigeonholing or putting people in these boxes, there are old people who have something to offer as much as a fresh new person. Let's get it out of that and make it about the content of what is being offered.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
We know the problems quite well as older folks, more mature problems.
We might even know the solutions having gone through a few marriages.
Yes, this is true. This is true. But the kids coming in now, they're going to come in, I believe, with divine answers that we're going to be stunned as we watch as these younger folks absolutely come up with some really, really good ideas. I absolutely know that in my heart.
Let's get into your Center for Transformation, but let's get specific. Can we do that? Because we've been talking big picture stuff, sort of the big umbrella or the big foundation. You do talk about having these levels from kindergarten to university. So can you kind of walk us through how this curriculum came to be maybe no, maybe not so much how it came to be, how you offer it specifically. It's group work, yes?
It
And
is.
now you're online.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
First
let's
of all,
start there.
if you come to our site, which is the CFT.ca, I am Zalah, Zalah, for those of you who are listening and can't see this. And so you can find me at the CFT.ca. Now, if you come there, you're going to be offered a number of different things. You can attend our Friday breakfast classes for free. I hold wisdom classes for the public. Starts early in the morning. I'm at 6:30 Mountain, and I do that for an hour, and then I take questions. Another dynamic that you might want to participate and get a taste of what it is that we do, Tasha, is we offer what's called the 10-part accelerator, consciousness accelerator program. It's a course for $300, and it's best taken over 10 days and beyond because there's just so much there. I'm videoing in this in 10 parts. There's homework attached to it. And by the way, as a token of gratitude for me being on your show today, I'm offering 100 of these courses valued at $300 each, gratis. They can find the link on your website. You can post it on your website, Marc, as we discussed, or on Facebook. But these courses are actually pretty thorough and give you a pretty good taste of truth as we know it. The truth that I teach is the wisdom of the ages. It can't be really categorized. I suppose there's a heavy input from Buddhism on it, but I believe that it's the truth and it's straight up the center. All right. And you can take this accelerated course. Now, if you like that, then you can go deeper with what we call the spiritual awakening classes. And these are classes that happen 4 hours in one night of the week for 8 weeks. And there's spiritual awakening 1, and then you can take spiritual awakening 2 as well. Once you've done these 2 courses, Spiritual Awakening, then you're welcomed into the center. We have a bit of a welcoming ceremony on Zoom, and we welcome you in, and then I can teach you full day because you understand my language, you understand the spirit, as well as the fact that it's given you a pretty good taste of whether or not you want to participate at this level of truth or not. I mean, like I said before, some come to drink at the fountain of knowledge. Others come to gargle, and others say, this is it. I'm swimming. I'm going to swim in the sea of love here. And so beyond that, then there's Saturdays where I can teach you full day. And I call these the whole I day. W-I-D. Whole stands for W-H-O-L-E. And I is me, myself, and I, the 3-part system, a whole I day, which was the derivative, the base of the word holy day or holiday. That's where it came from, whole I day. So I call it the whole I day, W-I-D. I can teach you there. And then you can come with me to, hopefully COVID's going to be allowing that sometime in the future, for a 3-day retreat or a 7-day retreat. It'll be up to you. So we teach truth. And I believe that it's freedom. Creation comes from freedom. We all need to get free of what it is that holds us back. So if we can lose the emotion, get the lesson on everything, and I say, this is a big study about getting past your past. And one of the things I teach is for those who can't get past their past, they PASS, Tasha. They pass with it intact. They never got past the dualistic emotion of what happened for them.
And so at what level are you doing sort of that emotional clearing of the past and
Continual.
continual?
Continue.
So how do you do that in your
Well,
approach?
you bet. I teach you a certain meditation process. And what happens is that what you're not past, when you start to meditate, it's like you have this IMAX screen up here above your eyebrows in the forehead. And typically when you start to meditate, the average person has 2 dozen to 4 dozen television sets on the IMAX theater. And they're sitting in the IMAX theater looking at all these television sets on because these are the dynamics of their life. How do you turn down the volume of these and then outright turn them off? This takes a while because you got to become complete with a lot of these issues, not just finished, but complete. Complete means you left the emotion behind. You understand why it happened. You're not charged with it anymore. You got the lesson and you become more present.
And do you
We're,
believe you can do that without without feelings, the
no,
process you just described?
no, you're going to feel it all the way through. But
Okay.
the idea is that you must be recalibrated to
Yeah.
become bigger than the issues that you thought were
Right.
issues, that were actually a divine, part of a divine
Right.
system of awakening is
Right.
what everything is. It's a divine system of awakening.
And so is there, how is the work embodied? So I get the teachings, I get the lessons, I get the understanding and that whole process. Where's the embodiment come in?
The embodiment actually takes place as you rise above the dualistic nature of all the issues and the incidents that occurred in your bottom three. And as you enter the fourth, which is love, you realize that love is nothing but conquers all, and you're truly at peace, because I believe that we were created to create, Tasha. We're all created, either consciously or unconsciously. So the embodiment of that is as you enter these upper centers here through breath, through breath, through understanding, that what happens is that these, like the bottom three, they secrete through ductless glands. They do secrete. And so ultimately, as you drive through this spectrum of heart, thymus, thyroid, pineal, pituitary, what happens in the pituitary is quite an advanced teaching in terms of what it secretes through the calcium wafers that are in this gland that open up the thalamic gate within the brain. This is pretty advanced. So I'm trying to keep it at the 30,000 foot viewpoint rather than get into the minutia of it. But this has taken a long time for me to fully understand. I've been teaching for 20 years. Never came out of the closet till recently. I've been grooming and making sure that I got direction to go forward and bring this to the public. Now, there's still going to be another, I recorded the last 10 years of classes, and the classes were between 1 hour, and the retreats, which are 6, 7 hours worth of recordings. And the senior students who have reviewed a lot of these saying, this is amazing because they're all congruent. There's nothing incongruent about this. And so I can take someone from basic spirituality, and this is going to take time. This is not a weekend course that you can pay
Mm.
thousands of dollars for and understand one dynamic of what we're talking about. No. This is about building slowly, methodically, analytically through a process, because I believe that life is a journey. It's a process. And so is the teaching. It is a process.
So I know we only have a couple of minutes left,
Yes,
which I'm
we do.
sad about because I have so much more I wanted to ask you. But this is one place that when I read it, I went, You said that imagination wins over desire.
No question.
And to me, they're so intertwined that my imagination is dull as dirt if my desire, my heart's longing is not involved. I don't see how to separate those two.
Can I help? Great. And also, if you need to ask me more, we can have another show, or you can call me. We can have a good conversation, because I can tell you're ready for this. Imagination always wins over desire. Example, if I take you up and I take you to the mountains at 5 a.m. and it's dark, and we hike into a certain place that I've got that has got a board that's 18 inches across, steel anchored with bolts here, goes to the other side of the ravine. I say, step on this board. Now I want you to put on this mask, and I'll see you on the other side. But I want you to walk across this, and you look down the ravine, and the updraft just about takes your breath away, and you say, really? I say, yeah. Now here's the secret to doing it. Imagination will win over desire. Now I know your desire is to get to the other side. Are we clear the distinction between imagination and desire? Recipient says, absolutely. Now I say, do you want to venture here? And chances are you're going to say, I don't have control of my imagination enough, Teach. And I'm going to say, all right, come back. I'll train you further on a focused imagination. Imagine comes from the word I'm a gene. And it's you have inside you, and I teach this to children, you're a genie of a new reality. But you got to remember, you got to take the time to imagine things as you want them, not as they are, and you'll be guided to your goals and dreams by a power much greater than you. That is how you become optimized in life.
So it's like a co-creativity
No
with the
question.
universe. Yeah.
No question.
Okay, so final words, or maybe let's go over the upcoming event you've got and how our listeners can find out more about you.
Great. Just come to the cft.ca. You can attend Friday morning classes to get a taste of what it is teaching. It's about an hour. I can answer questions at that point. Open forum. All right. Next, please take up if you're a listener to this program, take up the offer, register for one of the 100 courses that I'm offering to Tasha's listeners here, called the 10-part accelerator series. It's valued at $300. I think you'll be really, really impressed. If you like that, then you can join the spiritual awakening classes, number 1 and number 2. Each one of them is 8 weeks long, 4 hours a night, 1 night a week.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully I wasn't boring.
You were anything but boring, but I had to really resist the urge to keep digging in there and just opening it up, because I like the word how. How do we do that? I like practical in my esoteric.
Call me. We'll have a private chat. By all means. By all means. Love to.
Thanks for being on the show.
No, thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Marc.
Hey, my pleasure. That was great.
Yeah, blessings to both of you. Namaste.
Namaste. You've been listening to Conscious Living Radio, 100.5 FM in Vancouver on Wednesday nights. I'm Tasha Sims.
And I'm Marc Caron.
See you next time.